Good afternoon, geometry. Hey, yesterday we learned that if we constructed the mid-segment, in other words, if we took the midpoint of this side and the midpoint of this side, we found that we'd get a line segment here that's half the length of this guy down here, and it's parallel. My question today is, what happens if we draw in a parallel line that doesn't go through the midpoint? What if it just goes through any point, as long as it's parallel to this side? So I smartly used notebook paper, and I made one of the bases of my triangle, one of the sides, be on the line. So I'm just going to pick any one of these, like, oh, let's say this guy right here. And I'll draw in that segment. And clearly now, this doesn't go through the midpoint, because the midpoint looks like it would be right about there. The question is, what's going on with the way that these two are no longer equal? That's clearly not equal to that. The question is, what is it? And so let's measure it and then do some fun math and see what we've got here. All right, so if I measure this, this looks like this is about, 4.3. And if I measure this in centimeters, this looks like this is about 7.5. And if I measure this, looks like that's about 3.8. And if I measure this, it looks like that's about 6.7-ish. Now keep in mind, I am not a robot and I don't have laser precision, but I wonder if you can look at those numbers and notice anything. Like, for example, I noticed that this is smaller than this and this is smaller than this. I noticed that this one here is not quite double this, and this is not quite double this. I wonder if they have any other kind of a relationship. I wonder if maybe they're proportional. Let's see what would happen if I wrote a proportion here. 4.3 is to 7.5. There's one ratio. Let's set up the other ratio. 3.8 is to 6.7. And now I wonder what would happen if we actually calculated the values of those ratios. Why don't you grab out your calculator and see what you get? So now that you've had a little bit of time to try to put those in your calculator, looks to me like I've got that this is about 0.573, and this guy over here is about 0.567. And now those are not exactly equal to each other, but gosh, they are so darn close. As a matter of fact, if I rounded to the nearest hundredth, 0.57, this would also be 0.57. I mean, considering I'm not a robot, it looks to me like we might have a thing going on here. That if I take any side, any line that is parallel to the third side, it cuts up these segments proportionally. So this segment here is to this segment here, as this segment here is to this segment here. Well, that looks like a wonderful thing to explore. Let's try another one, shall we? Let's say I've got something that maybe is a little bit more complicated, like this guy here. Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is I've got this triangle, I've got two parallel lines, and I would love to know what this length right here is. I know this is 4. This one here is 4. 4 is to, the problem is I don't know what this one here is. I only know that the whole thing is 10. I'm sorry, the whole thing is 14. So if this whole thing is 14, but this much of it is 4, I already said it by accident. This thing here is 10. Okay, so now I can write a proportion. 4 is to 10 as what? Question mark is to 15. Now I can do my ratio proportion voodoo magic. 60 is equal to 4 times x, 4 times question mark. Sorry, not 4, 10. 10 times what is equal to 60? I think my answer is 6. So question mark is equal to 6. Please forgive my late afternoon fuzzy brain. All right. Question mark is equal to 6. There's two things going on there. One is if you're given the full length and you need to know only a segment of it, subtraction will be your best friend. And you know how to set up a ratio. You just have to know that these guys here, this segment is proportional to this segment, as this segment here is proportional to this segment here. 6 is to 15 as 4 is to 10. Woohoo! That's all we got today, guys. I'll be sending you 2 problems, and I'm going to ask you to input your answers into Canvas. Have a great one.